news for South African motorists as the petrol is set to drop once again at midnight. Mineral Resources and Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe made this announcement just yesterday. The price of 95 octane petrol will drop by R1.02 a litre and 93 octane by 89 cents. So diesel, on the other hand, though, sorry, some bad news. It's set for a 10 cents a litre increase. But the question is the drop in petrol prices a sign of better days ahead? To help us unpack this, I'm joined by Economist Professor Bonke Dumisa. Prof, always a pleasure having you. Good morning. I know you're coming from cool Durban, but we are here feeling the heat wave in Johannesburg. So let's just talk some money and hopefully we can keep some in our pocket. I made a very bad decision yesterday. Decided to fill my tank. Maybe I should have waited for midnight. For those who haven't yet, is this good news? The good news they've been waiting for? I'm talking here about the petrol, motorists that use petrol. Is it good news for them?
Not just good news, very good news for them. And what makes it even better is that this is happening for the third time in a row that the petrol price is going down. And we've already seen the positive consequences of that. We saw that the inflation rate moved from 7.8% to 7.6% in August. So with this, we can see the inflation rate going down as well, which may influence the Monetary Policy Committee of the Reserve Bank, maybe to not to stop hiking the repo rates, but to minimize the really hard blow of 75 basis points that we've seen for 2 consecutive meetings. But as you've already said, the bad news is that with the diesel drivers, I mean, when we're talking about diesel, we're talking about buses, we're talking about most trucks, in fact, almost all of the delivery trucks. We're even talking about electricity generation. So when the price of diesel goes up by 10% for the 0.05 sulfur and increasing by 15 cents for the 0.005 sulfur, then that is really bad news. And the real reason why it is bad news, it is because most of our food and other essential goods are transported by roads. So which means if ever the diesel is going up, this is going to offset the likely positive effect we could have had from the drop in the petrol price. But all the same, many South Africans are very happy. They will be paying R1.02 less for their 95 octane.
Absolutely. And you make a very important point about the consumer here being affected, Prof. So in terms of transport, you mentioned trucks and, tractors, obviously those relying on diesel being affected by this increase. For those using public transport, particularly your taxis and, buses, etc., they always worry about the fare increasing. Is that also a possibility with these news?
Not necessarily. I'll tell you why. There is this understanding within the taxi industry and even with the bus industry that they increase their bus fares and taxi fares at least only once a year or twice a year at most. So some of the increases, they absorb those things. But if ever it's excessive, then they adjust their prices. So I'm not really worried more about the public transport. I'm worried about the trucking industry. And Eskom, you remember that Eskom spent over 7.7 billion rands in just 1 month because of to try and avoid load shedding.
Right. So
if ever the price of diesel goes up, it means it's going to hit us in the pocket directly and indirectly because of all these things.
And is there any hope of future relief, I suppose, when it comes to diesel?
It is. There is. Because the reason why diesel keeps on going up when the petrol price is going down, it is because there has been a significant increase in the demand for diesel globally. not because we must remember we live in a global village. So when there's more demand from Europe for diesel, and the mines need more of diesel, well, when the demand goes up and the supply remains constant, the prices go up, and that's what has been happening. But with hopingly, with the international Brent crude prices not increasing significantly in the near future, then the demand actually neutralizes, because the northern parts, they are going to move into their winter now instead of being in summer where they're driving a lot. Then maybe the demand for diesel is going to be better, and we can start seeing the diesel prices going down as well. But that is just a hope.
Yeah.
I don't want someone to say Bonke Dumisa said diesel prices will go down as well.
It's just a hope, Prof. But of course, context is equally important, so we better understand why we're seeing, these increases and decreases. We'll leave it there, Prof. But I appreciate you speaking to me this morning. Economist Professor Bonke Dumisa, thank you so much for your time this morning.